Waves of destiny, new beginnings. It wasn't until later, floating in the soft quiet of Kweku's arms, that I realized I had never known what it meant to feel whole. Not until now. It had lasted for hours, yet no bruises. No ache. I could barely breathe. I felt wrecked in the most impossible, exquisite way. Not broken, just utterly, breathtakingly undone. By the way he touched me, by the way he knew me, like his hands had been made to find every part of me I didn't know could feel that much. God, the pleasure. It had consumed me. There had been a moment, one single shattering moment, where everything disappeared, and all I could feel was him, surrounding me, claiming me, with a power that felt almost divine. No human body should have survived a feeling that powerful. But I had, and now I would never be the same. Whatever he had awakened in me, whatever ancient rhythm lived in his touch, it had unraveled something inside me I didn't even know was bound. My body hummed still, like his name had become a tide under my skin, and I was still riding the echo of it. He hadn't just touched me, he had claimed me, worshipped me with every breath, and I, breathlessly, had let him, welcomed it, craved it. In his arms, I wasn't just held, I was kept, and I bloomed. Now, with Nira nestled gently in his arms, we rose together through the water, up toward the surface. But even as we ascended, my heart began to twist. Mom, Dad, they had seen it. The night Dax pulled me beneath the waves. They had seen me vanish, dragged into the sea, like something being stolen by the dark. And I hadn't come back. Not until now. As we neared the shoreline in front of my house, everything was quiet. Strangely, hauntingly quiet. It was daytime. Soft sun overhead, warm wind rustling through the trees. No shouts, no police, no neighbors, just stillness. I turned to Kweku, my voice low. Wait here. Please, with her. He hesitated, just for a beat. His arms tightened around Nira, his eyes scanning the house, beyond the sand, like it was some foreign battlefield. I had told him about what happened with my parents, with my father. Amma. His voice held that protective edge, the one that said he would follow me anywhere, even here, even if I asked him not to. I'll be okay, I said gently. I need to see them. A pause. Then he nodded, jaw tense. I'm right here, he said, and he meant it. I touched Nair's little cheek, kissed her softly, then turned toward the house. My feet pressed into the familiar path from the sand to the porch. I'd walked it 1,000 times, but never like this, never with the weight of 2 worlds on my shoulders. The cars were in the driveway, both of them, just like always. I reached the door, my hand hovered, then I pushed it open. The creak was soft, familiar, and then, Amma? My mother's voice, sharp, stunned, followed by hurried footsteps. She appeared from the kitchen, and the moment she saw me, she screamed, Amma! She ran toward me, arms outstretched, tears already spilling down her cheeks. I had prepared myself to be strong, to walk in calm, to soothe them with steady words and a brave face. But the moment her arms wrapped around me, I broke. I clung to her, sobbing into her shoulder, my face pressed into the soft fabric of her sweater. She smelled like comfort, like memories, like home. Mom, I whispered, barely audible, more breath than voice, like a prayer, like something sacred returning. Her hands moved frantically over my back, my hair, as if making sure I was real, whole. And then I heard the heavier footsteps. I looked up. My heart stopped for a beat. Dad. His face was tight, unreadable, and for a breathless second I thought he might be angry, might shout, might demand answers I didn't yet have the words to give. But he didn't. He crossed the room in 3 strides and wrapped his arms around both of us. I gasped, not from surprise, but from the way the pain left my body all at once. His voice broke near my ear. "Amma." And just like that, I was no longer between two worlds. I was home. My mother pulled back just enough to hold my face in both hands, her eyes searching mine with such care I thought I might fall apart all over again. "I was so worried about you. When I saw you get dragged into the sea, where did you go, baby? What happened? Were you hurt?" she asked, voice trembling as she began to check me. I opened my mouth, then closed it. How could I explain everything that I'd emerged just now from an entirely different world? Kweku, my powers, the pull of the ocean, the child that was mine, but not born from me? So I told her the truth, in the only way I knew how. "Something ancient found me," I whispered. "Something beautiful." I didn't believe it at first. I was afraid, but I'm not afraid anymore. I'm okay, and I'm not hurt. She didn't ask again. She only nodded, like a woman who knew that some answers don't arrive all at once, but in fragments, like broken light through water. Her thumb brushed my cheek, tender and slow, as if she were grounding me with her touch. "You're glowing," she said. "Do you know that?" I smiled faintly, tears suspended on my lashes like dew. "Yeah," I said. "I think I do." After everything, after the sea, the storm, Kweku, Nira, I didn't doubt it. I could feel it in my skin, humming beneath my ribs like something lit from within. There was so much to tell her, so much I didn't even know how to shape into words. The story lived in my chest like thunder waiting to break, but it was too large for speech. Not yet. So instead, I let the silence bloom between us. A soft, sacred stillness that said more than any confession could. Later, after a long, quiet talk, they were surprisingly calm, almost gentle. They hadn't panicked the way I thought they might. Maybe they were trying. Maybe they could see how much I had already changed. When the light had shifted and the house had grown still, I led them outside. The sea shimmered in the distance, stretching wide and unbothered beneath the fading sky. And there he was, Kweku, Prince of the Sea, ruler of everything that moved beneath the waves. He sat perched upon his rock like a figure carved from the ocean's deepest memory, his onyx skin glistening like polished obsidian beneath the sunlight. Long, jet-black dreadlocks framed his powerful shoulders, damp and shining, their ends dripping with flecks of salt and light. His torso, bare and sculpted, gleamed beneath the midday sun, each contour catching the light like polished stone. And below, where legs should have been, his tail stretched, elegant and fluid. Part of it curled across the sun-warmed rock, the rest trailing into the sea like a promise whispered back to the water. The scales shimmered in shades of deep green and soft gold, catching the light like scattered jewels, moving with a quiet majesty that made it hard to look away. Even at rest, there was power in him, not loud or boastful, but effortless, like something ancient that knew exactly who it was. The sea didn't just carry him, it honored him. In his arms lay Nira, cradled in a fold of glowing sea silk that pulsed softly with the rhythm of her breath. She was small, still so impossibly small, with a round, velvet brown face and a tight little afro that curled just like mine. Her tiny green mermaid tail peeked from beneath the silk, scaled and luminous, the color of spring moss lit by magic. She blinked up at the world with wide, curious eyes, as if she already understood who she was. What she was. A miracle born of storm and sea. My mother reached for my hand, her grip trembling. "Is that?" "Yes," I breathed. Kweku saw us. He didn't move, just sat there, still and poised with Naira in his arms. Not rushed, not defensive. He was unguarded, a presence open and calm, like he belonged there, like he'd been waiting for this moment. And Naira? She didn't stir either. It was as if she understood, instinctively, The gravity of what was unfolding, the weight of eyes, the edge of belief, the magic of being seen. Somehow, both my parents had listened to me, truly listened, as I spoke of things most would struggle to believe. I had told them everything, of the power that rose through me like a tide, of the bond that tethered me to Naira, of the love that anchored me to Kweku, and somehow they didn't run. They didn't push back. They had simply followed me, letting me lead them outside to stand before the very definition of impossible. As they approached, they stopped just before him. Kweku observed them quietly, with the steady patience of the sea itself, and allowed them to observe him in return. And when the moment settled, he bowed his head to them. That simple gesture, humble and without fear, did something to my father's stance. I saw it in the slow shift of his posture. He softened. My mother's eyes fell to Naira. Slowly, she stepped forward, the hesitation in her movements belying the softness blooming on her face. "I remember you," she murmured with a breath of laughter, voice light and playful, though her hand trembled just slightly as she reached out. Naira responded before words could catch up, closing her tiny fingers around my mother's outstretched one, and just like that, the last of my mother's defenses shattered. She laughed, open and unguarded, then gasped as tears spilled freely down her cheeks. Wiping them clumsily with the back of her hand, she took a breath, steadying herself. "So she's yours?" My throat tightened. I looked at the child in Kwiku's arms, at the soft rise and fall of her chest, the peaceful curl of her other hand nestled against his shoulder. "She's mine," I said, the words coming out stronger than I expected. "In every way, that matters." My mother pressed her fingers to her lips. She was smiling, though her features shifted and swirled with everything she was trying to process. Tears welled again in her eyes, but this time she didn't hide them. She just nodded, and I saw it in her expression. She believed me. She saw them, Nihira and Kweku, not just as figments of a story too strange to grasp, but as real, as mine. Her eyes moved from the baby to Kweku, and in that quiet flick of recognition, I felt the weight of her understanding settle. She saw it, all of it. Yesterday, I was her little girl. Today, I stood before her as a woman with a family, one delivered not in years, but in a breath, ushered in by the very thing she'd once warned me to stay far away from. A boy. Technically. Just with ocean magic and a side of prophecy. If this was what people meant by life doing a full 180, then mine spun off the road, crashed through a tide, and came back with sea silk, spiritual contracts, and a glowing baby. A family starter pack, apparently. For a while we stood together, a strange and beautiful family, on the edge of seashore. My father was the one to ask it. "Will you stay?" I turned toward the waves, toward the sky, toward Kweku, the one I had bonded with in a way words would never fully capture. Loving him hadn't been simple. It hadn't been safe. It had been vast. Something beyond myself, like falling into a current not meant to be tamed. And when I'd finally admitted it, when the truth swelled in my chest so fiercely it had nowhere left to go, I told him everything. That I loved him, desperately, that I would stay, not just beside him, but with him, in the sea, as his mate, as Naira's mother. The water no longer scared me. It called to me now, like home. But even with that conviction deep in my chest, now that my feet were on solid ground again, face to face with my father, I hesitated. The words caught in my throat, thick with meaning. I will stay with Kweku," I said at last, my voice trembling but true. "In the sea." I looked down at my hands, then at Nhira, safe and now sleeping in Kweku's arms, and something inside me settled. "All this time," I whispered, "I didn't even realize how lost I felt. But now, I'm not lost anymore. I know where I belong." At that, I watched my father's expression, bracing for resistance, for that silent hardening that had always meant no, but it never came. Instead, he looked past me, to Kweku. "The night Amma was born," he said, his voice low, remembering. "The lights went out. Whole neighborhood went dark, and then the sea. It came to land, the hospital was flooded." His gaze drifted to the horizon, as if the memory still shimmered there. "I had Amma in my arms at the time. Essie, you were asleep, on the second floor, still recovering." At first, I thought I was imagining it. A figure, standing in the water inside the hospital, chest deep in a flood that had no storm, no warning, no reason to be there. Just watching, still as shadow. But the moonlight was pouring in through the windows, and I saw its eyes, soft and gleaming in the dark, not threatening, just knowing. It vanished in a blink, but just before it did, I swear, I saw something shimmer behind it. Long, fluid, shaped like a tail. It caught the moonlight as it slipped beneath the water and flashed like a ribbon made of stars. And then, the water rolled back, slipped away from the street like it had never been. Like the sea had come only to look at you, and then left without a sound. I never told anyone, not even your mother. It scared me, Amma, more than I wanted to admit, because deep down, I think I knew. The way it just floated there, staring so intensely, I got the strong sense that it came to see you. I would have dismissed it, chalked it up to exhaustion, but then you, Amma, you... He looked at me then, his voice softening. "You glowed in my arms." He met my eyes. That's when I knew. I hadn't imagined it. Something had come. For you. You were such a crybaby. He added with a shaky smile. You just wouldn't stop crying until we moved closer to the ocean, until we moved into this house. His voice faltered. I guess I always feared it might take you. He looked at me again, and I saw it. Not fear anymore, but understanding. Peace, even. "Was it you?" my father asked, turning to Kweku once more. I watched, frozen, caught between my father's unraveling memories and the merman sitting before him. And then, Kweku nodded. The gesture was quiet, almost solemn, but in his eyes I saw it, a quiet promise to tell me more, when the moment was right, when we were alone. Strangely, I didn't panic, not even a little. I probably should have. By now, I'd gotten used to the way Kweku always seemed to hold more than he let on, and honestly, I thought I was handling it pretty well. "I was younger then," Kweku said to my father, his voice low. "Reckless." My mind was still reeling, but I managed to lift a brow and say, "I'm sure Naira and I would agree that not much has changed, considering how we were introduced." I teased and smiled. Kweku chuckled, low and warm, and for a moment, the tension dissolved into something warmer. "When I look at you now, I see that you're happy, Amma. And you, Kweku, Prince of the Sea." He turned to him fully now. "You must be doing something right, because she's glowing again." A pause followed, long and heavy, a moment of reckoning. Then, with the seriousness only a father can conjure, he said, "Take care of my daughter, or I swear, I'll learn to breathe underwater, hunt you to the ends of your ocean, and drag you back to land by your hair." Kweku didn't flinch. Instead, he bowed his head with deep respect and replied, "If she ever sheds a tear because of me, I'll carve out my heart myself and lay it at her feet to make her whole again." My father was silent after that. Then he turned to me, voice softer now. "Are you sure, Amma?" I nodded. Tears welled in his eyes as he looked down at me, not the little girl he'd once lifted onto his shoulders, but the woman I'd become. "My baby's grown up," he whispered, "and she has the right to choose where she belongs." Mom nodded her approval beside him. He placed his hands on both sides of my face, kissed my forehead, and let me go. "I give you my blessing," he said. Wrapped in one final embrace from both of my parents, we said goodbye, and they watched me walk toward the sea. The sun was high when I stepped into the water, warm and golden, wrapping around my skin like memory. Kweku took my hand. His eyes locked with mine, and I felt the pulse of something ancient pass between us. He drew me into him, his forehead against mine, his breath quiet and sure. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I've never been more," I whispered. Then with a kiss he shared his essence with me, a surge of light and warmth that flooded every inch of my being. I gasped as the transformation began. It was not pain. It was like falling in love and being loved back by something eternal, like the stars had been waiting for this moment, and my body was finally catching up to the truth my soul already knew. My legs shimmered, the outline of them softening, dissolving, as if the sea had reached up and rewritten me in its own language. The skin turned smooth, then luminous, a silken gleam blooming from my waist down. And then it came. The tail, long, breathtaking. It unfolded like a gift unwrapped slowly by moonlight. Scales unfurled in a cascade of color, deep emerald melting into teal, kissed with sea glass blue, each one edged in delicate gold, catching the light like drops of sunlight scattered on water. My tail curled gently in the tide, not as something foreign, but as something finally right. It was graceful, lithe, strong, and it was mine, wholly, unequivocally, a part of me that had always waited just beneath the surface to be awakened. In that moment, I wasn't shedding who I was. I was becoming who I'd always been. Kweku pulled me close, and together we dove beneath the surface, the world above falling away in a blur of light and foam. Beside us, Nira flitted through the water, laughing in bubbles, her small tail flashing joyfully as she twirled and darted ahead, a spark of life between us, born of the sea's blessing and a bond no world could contain. Our daughter, our joy, our family, whole. Kweku reached for my hand beneath the waves, and when his fingers closed around mine, it wasn't just a gesture of love, it was a promise, a future. I looked ahead, where the water opened like a path of light, and I thought of the girl I used to be, the one who read her books, did her chores, took long walks by the sea, and called it a life. She had needed her quiet returns, those small escapes into routine, just to feel safe. But that life was behind me now, because here, in this moment, with them, there was no longer room for drifting, no more simply existing. I was awake, fully, entirely, breathlessly alive, and wherever the tide carried us, we would not just move through it, we would live. I return home every year. The tide knows our name now. It carries us gently, like a promise, from sea to shore and back again. My parents have watched Nira grow, watched her laughter echo in their living room, watched her little legs swing from their kitchen stools, watched her tail shimmer in the waves just beyond their reach. They are still part of our lives. I am still part of theirs. And that has been my greatest joy, that I never had to give up either world. Because of the bond I carry, I can walk on land as easily as I swim in sea, and so can Nira. When the waves recede, our legs return. And when the ocean calls, we become who we are again, fully, deeply, without pain. In the sea, they call us the two-souled ones, the ones who walk the land but were blessed by the depths. The merfolk whisper our names like songs, reverent and awed. We are legends to them, but to me, we are just a family. And Kweku, my heart, my anchor, always waits for us. Every time we return to land and the visit comes to an end, he's there on his rock, watching the sunset, still as a statue, but his eyes never stop searching the horizon until he sees us again. I fall in love with him each time we rise from the waves, as if we're meeting for the first time, as if all of this is still a miracle. Because it is.